There was a time when carrying the family didn't mean going slow. By the late 1950s, while most eyes were on the big coupes and the muscle cars beginning to dominate the conversation, something far more interesting was quietly happening on American roads. Some manufacturers decided to hide very serious engines inside cars that, on the outside, looked completely harmless, station wagons built for everyday life, but with enough V8 under the hood to surprise more than a few drivers on the highway. And this is where the story gets truly interesting, because when people talk today about fast cars of the 1950s, almost nobody looks at family wagons. The conversation always goes to the same familiar names. The obvious ones, the loud ones, the ones everyone remembers first. But the reality was different. There were wagons that combined space, presence, and an ability to accelerate that many did not expect from a family car of the era. Discrete machines, but far more capable than their image suggested. In this video, we're going to explore some of the fastest American station wagons of the 1950s. Let's begin. 1957 Chevrolet Nomad. If there was a station wagon in the 1950s that proved a family car could move with real urgency, it was this one. When the Nomad appeared in 1957, Chevrolet wasn't trying to build the fastest wagon in the country. The official mission was far calmer: style, space, and everyday versatility. But in one of its most ambitious configurations, this model hid something that completely changed the story: Rochester mechanical fuel injection. And at that time, very few wagons could claim anything like it. Visually, it already projected a different attitude. The sloping roofline, sportier rear section, and more compact proportions made the Nomad feel less utilitarian than most of its family-oriented rivals. It was practical, yes, but it didn't look resigned to being slow. And when we look at what really matters in this video, speed, the key figure explains everything. In its best-known fuel-injected form, the 283 cubic inch V8 delivered up to 283 horsepower. In 1957, in a family-sized wagon, that number placed the Nomad in surprisingly serious territory on the open road. It wasn't a pure sports car, but it also wasn't the heavy, sluggish wagon many people imagine when thinking about the 1950s. Throttle response was much livelier than expected, and on the highway, this Chevrolet could maintain speeds that left more than a few seemingly sportier cars behind. And that's why it remains so respected today. Because the Nomad didn't just look good, it moved with far more intent than its family silhouette suggested. In 1957, Chevrolet built just over 6,100 Nomads, and authentic fuel injection cars are especially prized today by collectors who understand what this model represented. Currently, a well-preserved example typically ranges between $70,000 and $120,000, with fuel-injected cars easily exceeding that range. And the best part is, some of the wagons coming next took this idea even further. 1958, Oldsmobile Super 88 Fiesta. If the Nomad hinted that a family wagon could be quicker than expected, Oldsmobile made the message much clearer. By the late 1950s, the brand had already built a strong reputation around one word Detroit took very seriously: rocket. And when that concept was applied to a full-size station wagon, the result was far more interesting than many people realized. Because the Fiesta did not look like a car built to run. Visually, it was still a large, solid family wagon, clearly oriented toward comfort. The body was long, the stance wide, and the design carried that calm Oldsmobile elegance typical of the era. Nothing in its appearance screamed speed, and that's exactly why it fits so well on this list. Because beneath that respectable image was a V8 with very serious credentials for the late 1950s. In its most representative configuration, the Super 88 carried the 371 cubic inch Rocket V8 producing around 305 horsepower. For a wagon of this size in 1958, that figure placed it clearly above the family car average on the open road. It wasn't the violent acceleration we would see years later in the most radical muscle cars, but it was strong, steady, and very respectable thrust for a vehicle that was, at least in theory, built for family duty. On the highway, this Oldsmobile felt surprisingly relaxed for its size. It could maintain high speeds with an ease many drivers of the time did not expect from a luxury wagon. It was fast, but in a very late 1950s way, smooth and stable, and with plenty of power and reserve. In terms of production, Oldsmobile built around 12,000 Fiesta wagons in 1958, which today keeps it relatively accessible in the classic car world. Currently, a well-preserved Super 88 Fiesta wagon typically ranges between $35,000 and $70,000, depending on condition and originality. 1957 Buick Caballero. After the compact surprise of the Rambler, the tone shifts again, but not towards something radical, towards something far more sophisticated. Because if there was a late 1950s wagon that truly blended premium presence with real highway capability, it was the Caballero. Buick wasn't playing the basic family car game here. The intention was clear from the start: deliver serious comfort without giving up the power reserve American buyers were beginning to expect. Visually, the Caballero communicates exactly that. The body is long, low, and very well proportioned for its size. The roof treatment, the abundant yet well-integrated chrome, and the firm stance on the pavement placed it clearly above the typical utilitarian wagon. It felt closer to a grand touring family car than to a simple practical vehicle. But in this video, what matters most is something else: potential speed. And Buick had the hardware to back it up. In 1957, the Caballero could be equipped with the well-known 364 cubic inch nailhead V8, producing around 300 horsepower. For a luxury wagon of this size, that level of power kept it perfectly competitive on the highway against many seemingly sportier cars. It wasn't about explosive launches from a stop. It was classic Buick character: strong, steady thrust, and very stable high-speed cruising. On the open road, it felt solid, secure, and far more mechanically capable than its elegant image suggested. This was the kind of family car that could devour miles in complete calm, but still had plenty in reserve when the driver asked for more. In terms of production, Buick built just over 14,000 Caballero estate wagons in 1957, which today keeps it relatively exclusive within the premium wagon world of the decade. Currently, a well-preserved example typically ranges between $35,000 and $75,000, with especially original cars climbing steadily in the collector market. And interestingly, the next wagon on this list shifts the formula once again, in a very different direction. 1959 Pontiac Safari. And now the decade begins to show a different attitude, because while the Caballero represented refinement with power in reserve, the late 1950s, Safari carried a much bolder presence. Pontiac understood that design was also part of perceived performance, and by 1959, that became very clear. Visually, this wagon did not go unnoticed. Sharper lines, a wide grille, and a lower stance for its size gave it a far more dynamic silhouette than many traditional family wagons. It wasn't discreet, it was expressive. And in the era of America's expanding highways, that mattered. But the key point sits under the hood. In 1959, the Safari could be equipped with the 389 cubic inch V8, producing around 300 horsepower. For a full-size station wagon, that level of power placed it in a very serious position within the traffic of its time. We're not talking about a lightweight sports car, but we are talking about a family wagon capable of maintaining high speeds with complete authority. On the highway, the thrust felt firm and continuous. It didn't need theatrics. It had enough muscle to sustain elevated cruising speeds effortlessly, something many more modest wagons simply couldn't match at the time. In terms of production, the Safari was part of Pontiac's regular late-decade lineup, and well-preserved examples are becoming increasingly valued today, especially those equipped with the more powerful V8 configurations. Currently, a 1959 Pontiac Safari, in good condition, typically ranges between $30,000 and $65,000, depending on specification and originality. 1957 to 1959, Mercury Colony Park. And now, we enter a territory where speed was disguised as pure American elegance. Because while the Pontiac already hinted at muscle beneath a family body, the Colony Park played a more subtle game. Mercury didn't need its wagon to look aggressive. Its strategy was different: visible luxury on the outside, and enough power to keep up with the new America of expanding highways. Visually, it projected exactly that philosophy. The body was long, solid, and clearly oriented toward premium family comfort. The famous wood-grain side trim reinforced its image as a respectable wagon, almost executive by late 1950s standards. Nothing in its silhouette suggested urgency, and yet the mechanical story was very different. In its more desirable configurations, Mercury offered high-output V8 engines that could exceed 300 horsepower, depending on specification. For a wagon of this size and mission, that placed it firmly within the fast traffic of the era. It wasn't about explosive launches, it was classic Mercury character. Smooth, sustained speed with plenty in reserve on the open road. On the highway, it felt surprisingly comfortable maintaining elevated cruising speeds over long distances. This was the kind of family car that could cross entire states effortlessly and still keep pace when traffic picked up. Today, a well-kept Colony Park typically ranges between $25,000 and $55,000, with exceptional examples exceeding that range. Now, I want your opinion. Between the elegance of the Buick Caballero, the presence of the Pontiac Safari, and the fast luxury of the Mercury Colony Park, which wagon feels the most complete in this group? Tell me in the comments, because what comes next takes us back into Mopar territory with a very different approach. 1959 Dodge Custom Sierra wagon. And now, the conversation gets serious again, because while the Colony Park focused on smooth speed wrapped in luxury, Dodge chose to keep things much more direct. By the late 1950s, the brand already understood that even a family wagon needed to feel solid when the driver asked for more, and the Custom Sierra made that very clear. Visually, it didn't try to disguise itself as an elegant coupe or a delicate family car. The body was large, yes, but it also projected the kind of toughness Mopar was known for in this era. The lines were firm, the stance wide, and the overall look suggested there was more character beneath the surface than first appeared. It wasn't subtle, but it didn't need to be, because once again, the main argument was under the hood. In 1959, it could be equipped with large displacement V8 engines producing over 300 horsepower in its strongest configurations. For a full-size wagon, that placed it comfortably among the family haulers capable of maintaining fast highway speeds on America's growing interstate network. Today, well-preserved Custom Sierras are becoming increasingly uncommon on the classic market, especially properly documented V8 cars. Depending on condition, a 1959 example typically ranges between $25,000 and $50,000, with especially original units gaining interest among old-school Mopar enthusiasts.